Hi guys, my name's Barry and welcome back to the channel. I get a lot of compliments for my thumbnails on my YouTube channel and I take a lot of pride and time when it comes to my thumbnails. I have spoke to people before about how they do their thumbnails and they say it takes me 2 minutes to do a thumbnail and it's done. Whereas me, sometimes I take a good 30 minutes to do a thumbnail. This video is not going to take 30 minutes to show you, but what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how I create my thumbnails using an AI generator within Adobe Photoshop. So if you want to recreate it, you can certainly do what I do. You need to have Adobe Photoshop to be able to do it with the steps that I do. But I want to show you today why sometimes AI generators can be a good thing. I know that when you say AI, people get put off. They're like, I don't like AI. I will never use AI. But I think you need to embrace technology. I think it comes a time where you see something and everybody's using it and you have to use it. It's the same with me. I do photography. I had to learn that everyone thinks they're a photographer now. Anyone's got a smartphone, they've got a camera on their smartphone. Everyone's a photographer. I had to accept that and move with the times. And I think a lot of people have to accept that with AI. Sometimes AI can be used for evil, but sometimes it can be used for good. So today's video, I'm going to show you how I use an AI generator within Adobe Photoshop in order to create the thumbnails that I do. Okay, so if we move over to Adobe Photoshop, this is mine. This one here is just a thumbnail that I created for most of my videos, to be honest. As you can see at the top left, I've got the Wolfman's Got Nards logo that I use for all of most of my video thumbnails. I've got a drop shadow on that as well. So if I really want to, I can put a little drop shadow behind the writing just in case there's something behind it that shadows or hides or bleeds out my Wolfman's Got Nards logo. But I'll leave that off just now because I might not need it. Next, we've got the little rectangle going around here. It's a border that I use for all of my videos. Again, this has got a gradient overlay on it just now. I can remove that and it's just plain white. Put the gradient back on, it's fine. I've also got a color overlay, which again, it's white color just now, but I can do a plain color or I can do a gradient. But again, that depends on the image that I use for this. I've also got a layer here, which is just a blood spatter. I can take that off if I want or put it back on. For most of my videos, I have that on there anyway. And for the purpose of this video, we'll leave it on. There's other things here like the text that I use, greatest horror movies of all time, for example. Always use rulers. You can see all my little kind of greeny blue rulers around there. That's to have everything in place that I need. And if you want to, you can control this and just make sure everything's lining up the way you want it. So that's what I've got here so far. Now let's remove the text. What I want to do now, guys, is show you how I use an AI generator within Adobe Photoshop in order to make these thumbnails. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to this website here, fanart.tv. Now you don't have to use this website. This is just a website that I go to quite a lot. A lot of the time I will go to Google for my images, but make sure those images are high quality. Don't use anything under, say, 1,000 pixels because it's going to be bad. So let's search for a horror movie, of course, because it's a horror channel. Let's do The Shining. So The Shining, and you want to use a poster, right? So posters aren't the aspect ratio that you would want them to be for a thumbnail, so you're going to have to do some sort of editing. So we'll take this one, looks like a good one. Never seen that before. So let's save that and we'll save it to here. You also want the Shining logo. So we'll take this one, save that. I could also take the red one as well if I really wanted to, but to be honest, I can just change the color of the text anyway if I really need to. So we don't have to take a specific color unless you want to take something like this, which I won't do for the purpose of this video. Let's keep it simple and we'll use the simple text. So we'll go back to Photoshop now. And then what we're going to have to do with these is we're going to drag them into our Photoshop. So we'll leave the text for now. But we're just going to use this. Now this has already got text on it, but we won't be using this text. We'll be using our own. Now a thumbnail is usually 16 by 9, which is this here. And obviously that's not a 16 by 9 image. So we need to make it a 16 by 9 image. So what we'll do is we'll drag that to here. Now you can drag that to wherever you want, to be honest, guys. You can put it here if you want, you can put it here. But for the purposes of my thumbnails, I usually have my images to the right-hand side. So we'll have a whole blank space there. Now this is where the AI generation comes in, and this is where you can use it to your benefit. So nothing's selected just now. So you just select your box here, select the blank canvas as well as some of your image, like so. If you hold shift, if you're using a PC or a laptop, when you're holding down shift, you can still make those squares like here, and it joins up with the rest of them. So let's say here, because I don't want the shining text in there. So now we've got this part selected and all the way around the white. Okay, now you've got generative fill here. So click on generative fill. You can put in what you want it to be. Sometimes that's unreliable, but I leave that blank. And what you want to do now is generate. So that generates what it thinks it needs to fill in with what's blank and what you've selected. So let's see what happens. You get 3 options usually. So I'll let that run. Now I've got that. So you obviously don't want to use the middle finger. That looks a little daft. Now that one looks okay. And then this one, yeah. So one of these two, I would say this one, because if you look at the shoulder here, the shoulder looks natural. But on this one, it doesn't. So let's go for option number 3. Now this is what I do and how I do it. If you use Photoshop, you can do it differently. But what I tend to do after I've selected the one I really want is I go to layers and flatten image. So that's me flattened the whole image. It's just one image now. What I want to do now is select subject. And this is a kind of AI generation selection. It selects what it thinks you want to select. So let's see what happens. Select subject. And it's done it perfectly. So sometimes you could change this around. If you select this tool, go here and start moving things around. I don't want to do that because it is a perfect selection for me. So then you go to select and mask at the top. It selects what it thinks you want to select, which is great. You can see all the hair fibers, it's cool. You can really refine the hair if you want by doing that. Not made much of a difference, so I just Control Z, put it back to the way it was. Now, I always do a smart radius with these regardless, and I always put the radius to 3 pixels. That means it goes around 3 pixels each way, just in case there's something you've not selected that it thinks you want to select. So after you've done smart radius and your 3 pixels, go to your output and select new layer and click OK. What that does is it gives you a new layer of what we can see, the character. Now you want to put the background back in. So you can put it in, take it out. You've now got that layer, that extra layer. So you want to select both layers. And with both layers selected, you drag them over to your template, which you have created on your own. Drop it here. Now, obviously, you don't want it to sit like that. So you Control T and you make it the size you want to make it. So let's say, so you can see my outer box here. You want to keep it on the outside. I think maybe here, not too bad. Again, we'll be moving it around. Click OK. Now you've got your layers at the right hand side. What I tend to do is drag both of the layers down to the bottom, just above my background layer. So now you've got this. So you've now got Jack, who's here, but you want to put him, you want to put him above your rectangle. So you take the Jack layer, drag it up, and now he's above that. So now you want to select both of them. Make sure you do both of them, because if you do one of them, I'll show you what happens. You select one of those layers. Now you've got 2 Jacks. You don't want that. So you select both layers at the same time and Control T again, and then you move them both at the same time so you get the distance you want up and down, left and right. So let's put it here for now. Now you can see my lines here. These lines. These are again for my titles or writing that I'm put down. So the greatest horror movies of all time would go there. That's for this line here. I've got a separate line here for my titles. Again, it doesn't have to be exact. Sometimes, depending on the size of the title, I'll move it around. So let's take that title now and just drag it right on top. Now it's quite small. The shining would go here. And it's sitting right there. But for me, I've got really bad OCD when this happens. So you can see that the start of the T and here, the distance here to here is too much of a difference between the end of the G and Jack's hair. So I want to move that just slightly over to help my OCD. And it also makes it more aesthetically pleasing. So you select the both layers again and you start to move it around just a little bit more. And I'd say here would be perfect. So you okay that, and now you've got that. Now you can mess around with the colouring of whatever you're doing. So I've got the banner there. Do I want to make it white? Do I want to make it a different colour? Let's say blending options. Let's say I want to make it yellow. I can certainly do that. Okay that, okay that. The Shining is kind of known to have a yellow title, isn't it? So if we really want to, we can do a colour overlay for that as well, if we really wanted to. It looks not too bad, to be honest. Let's just okay that. So you've got now this. And if you really want to as well with this, you can remove this if you want, the background, but you still have Jack in the forefront and you have a plain background, but it looks okay like this. Now I've got a gradient fill that does this, that kind of overshadows that. Obviously we'll put the Shining above. So if you really want to leave out the left-hand side, but keep the background of the right-hand side, you can create a gradient if you really want to. For this one, it's not really required because you can still see Jack. But if you want to go a little bit further, select the background layer and you can change the opacity to make it a little bit darker if you really want to as well, so that you can still kind of see it and the background is coming in, which is the black background. If you want to make it black, that's, of course. So that's okay for me. So that's the way I would do it. And that's a thumbnail. Very easy to do. And as you can see, AI generator done a job for me, because without it, I wouldn't have been able to replicate the background the way I wanted it to. So for this to look like this at the very beginning, then I've been able to use this image and make it a thumbnail like this and make it really pop, which is how I do it. So that's just a quick tutorial on how I create my thumbnails, guys. Hopefully this is useful for somebody out there, because I always get asked how I do my thumbnails, where do I get my images from? So all the information in this video hopefully answers all of that. However, if there's something that I haven't answered or there's something else that you want to know about, leave your questions down below, guys. Let me know anything that you want to know and I'll answer them as best as I can. And as always, thanks a lot for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you soon.
Meeting adjourned.
I'll be right back.
What are you waiting for, huh?
Coming to get you, Barbara.
Ever played in the cat?
Someone's in the back!